Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Commodity TV here in Zurich today for the Zurich Invest Night. And with me here is now Barkerville Gold Mines and Chris Lodder, the CEO and President, wants to give us an insight and update. Chris, welcome.
Thank you for this interview.
Yeah, great to have you here. And maybe you can give us first a little bit about your person and also then give us a short overview of what Barkerville looks like today.
Okay, yeah. I'm Chris Lodder. I come from a geology and mining background. I've been working with the Osisko group for the last 7-8 years. Prior to that, I was with AngloGold Ashanti as their manager for the Americas. And in my work with Osisko was principally around technical due diligences and exploration for the group as a whole, with Osisko Royalties and the previous with Osisko Mining before the takeout by Agnico and Yamana. Barkerville Gold Mines was one of the companies that attracted us in 2015 when Eric Sprott had control of the company as a major shareholder. He invited us to co-invest with him on it. We did a brief due diligence, about a week's due diligence work in mid to later 2015. And we kind of got a feel for the project. It was still quite disorganized in terms of the data and things like that. It was hard to understand it, but we decided at that point to put $5 million in just as really an extended due diligence. That was Osisko Gold Royalties. That really at that time gave us about 20% of the company. The Trump company had a market cap in about 25 million in those days. And that also helped Eric continue on with his project, trying to define targets there and understand the geology. So with that investment in I believe it was July 2015, we were given technical oversight on all the data compilation and ongoing exploration. I became a nominee director of Barkerville Gold Mines and for Osisko. And we worked through the next sort of 6 months trying to get our head around what is Barkerville in terms of potential and where we would go in terms of a business plan. By early 2016, our confidence increased to the point where we decided, okay, we're going to buy a royalty and we would increase our equity position. So we put about approximately $30 million into it. And with that came the terms that I would become president and CEO. And we would replace many of the members of the existing management and board with Osisko people.
How much is the royalty then you have to pay when you go in production?
We have 2.25%.
Oh, that's okay. That's for both sides, I would say. It's really okay.
Yeah, the land package at Barkerville that was consolidated by the previous management over sort of a 10-15 years period was quite well done. It consolidated basically most of the prospective part of the district. And with that, it had very little royalties applied to it from that old consolidation. There was 86 landholders in the area originally before the previous management got involved in consolidating.
How large is the land package now?
It's about 2,000 square kilometers.
Wow, that's a lot.
And it's most of the prospective area. There are some areas that we don't have, but it's most of the prospective area. Anyways, when we took over management too, we started developing the business plan. And what we saw there was really two things that drove this project. One was the geology, which indicated more underground rather than open pit. Previous management had thought there was more open pit potential. We saw underground. So that was number. The second was the jurisdiction. We're in British Columbia, Canada. British Columbia is a green province in many ways. It has a lot of other uses, forestry, wildlife tourism, wilderness tourism, so on, in the area, as well as other types of cottage industries and other services. In our area, principally, we're looking at mining, logging area with some backcountry tourism. So looking at that, we decided that from a permitting point of view, we felt that underground was, again, much easier to do in terms of our permitting abilities. We would get things permitted quickly. Typically in British Columbia, to get a permit for an underground operation, be looking at about 18 months. That's just recently shown by Pretium in British Columbia. So anyways, we went on and started doing work over that sort of initial 6 months, developing a business plan, looking at the geology, trying to understand the geological controls of mineralization. And by mid-year, we really had come to terms with a business plan based around what we considered to be the controls of mineralization. That was really what really broke the code for us in terms of our confidence in the project. From that point on, we started to increase our our shareholdings to where today Osisko Royalties owns 33% of the company, and Osisko Mining owns 16%. The management board holds about 3%.
It's almost a control.
It's definitely a control. Yeah. We've also changed out a lot of the original shareholder base, and we now have some bigger players like J.P. Morgan, Tocqueville, et cetera, working with us now as other shareholders in there.
Fantastic. So maybe can you give us a little bit of an idea? 2017, you have drilled a lot, and you want to drill next year anyway more. So please elaborate a bit on the drill game plan, I would call it.
Okay. So again, mid last year we broke the code in the geology, and we started to increase. Prior to that, our drilling, which we had drilled a couple hundred holes prior to mid 2016. We were at about 1 in every 4 or 5 holes is hitting significant mineralization, so not a good hit ratio. When we figured out what the controls of mineralization, we started to increase we changed the rigs around, we started to move the way we drilled, or change the way we drilled, and that allowed us basically that almost every hole hit. And from that point on, we increased our drilling. So last year in 2016, we drilled approximately 120,000 meters, and this year we're drilling about 160,000 meters, and next year will be about 120,000 meters. All this is leading to different milestones. The first thing we wanted to do is get a new resource out on the project, which we're working on to have out in Q1 of 2018, so next year. That'll be a new resource. It'll be our resource. There was resources that we inherited. Those resources were of all sorts of numbers, 10 million, 5 million ounces, and so on. But we
remember the huge numbers in the past.
60 million, and so on.
Yeah.
Okay, we couldn't verify any of those with our work. We didn't see that. We considered them all to be poorly done, so we discarded all of them, and we started to build our own resource. So we've been working principally on an underground resource. There are small pit potential, but 80% of what we're looking at is underground. So anyways, the first milestone that we had out was to get that resource out. What we're doing with that resource next is we're going to be doing it, obviously, a feasibility when we get a mine plan into place. So parallel to that, we've been working on other things too, like our environmental assessment, our First Nations agreements, which now are done, and also working on many of the engineering aspects. This project, we didn't start from scratch, really. We have to admit there was a lot of work done previously. Over 6,000 drill holes, even though they were not compliant, we do have that data, compliant in terms of the
but it helps to know where to go, right?
Yeah, and we had about 148 kilometers of underground development there.
Oh, that's
so
a lot.
A lot of development there. A lot of it cannot be used, but that data is there again in terms of the geology and the controls and the stopes and so on. And we've managed to open up about 15 kilometers of that for mapping and sampling and so on. So all that's leading to basically initiating a feasibility next year, mid next year is start looking at June or July next year. That will then take us approximately a year, and that will basically then justify a new mine on site and mill. Right now we have a mill. It's 110 kilometers away, but it's 110 kilometers away. It's a long ways away.
Absolutely.
It was inherited again from the previous management.
Yeah.
So the plan right now is to have that feasibility done by mid 2018, or sorry, 19 then, and then we start a permitting process. We would look at then having the permits in place by end of 2020, and then construction in 2020 and commissioning in 2021 of a new mine and mill on site. So that's our targets right now that we're working on. We're looking at a mine that can produce, trying to look at mines that are going to produce over 150,000 ounces a year initially, and be able to grow beyond that. Well, we are mining actually right now. We did inherit a smaller mine. We've taken that mine and moved it from an open pit to an underground. We're just doing development at this stage. We won't actually start sustainable stoping, meaning that we'll start more sustainable mining till early next year, but this year we'll process about 30,000 tons of ore, but just all development ores. We developed the different levels.
So still will make money.
Yeah, so
that's good.
So we're making money. This year's money going out as we build it, but next year, yes. Yeah. And so there's approximately 3 years of mining, potentially 4 years of mining there, which will basically take us through to the new mine. We process that ore down at our QR mill, which is the one I mentioned. That's 110 kilometers away.
Okay,
that's quite a drive down there.
Yeah.
It costs us $30 Canadian, basically a ton to get the ore down there. The mill's a good mill. It's an old mill. It was built by Echo Bay Kinross back in the 1990s, but it's sufficient for about 300 tons a day, 900 tons a day. We're only using it really at half capacity. We're looking at processing about 150,000 tons a year.
Right. Okay. And of course, money is not an issue with this shareholder basis. I would say, yes, you can easily refinance. But what you just elaborated is a sensational game plan, I would call, for the next 4 to 5 years. Yeah. Absolutely fantastic. Where do you think what the Capex might be for the complete project then to go in production? Do you have already something in your mind?
We have
I know
some
it's
ideas.
way too early. I know it's a forward-looking statement, but maybe can you tell us a bit? Is it like, do we look at 150 million, 500 million?
We think it's going to be somewhere between 300 and 400 million from this point on, net of our small profits we'll make from the small mine. So that's really where we think it'll be right now to get this thing to somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 tons a day type production. That's quite a range. It actually costs, so I'm cautious on that statement. But yeah, we're looking at that there, and that would get us our initial production of 150 to 200,000 ounces a year that we're targeting on Barkerville gold mines. Now, we see this asset as a long life asset. That's one of the reasons we got involved with it. We looked at it as really a 20-year plus asset. Again, the regional potential is great. We've just really working within 6 kilometers of what we call the 67-kilometer trend. This mineralization repeats itself over and over again. Again, the model that was put together last year was, I mentioned, we broke the code and got our confidence up, and now we're into this project as the Osisko group of approximately $105 million. So yeah, we've taken this seriously. We're building a mining company here, and it's going to be a company that's going to basically be our platform for Western Canada.
Perfect. That was a great final sentence, Chris. Thank you very much. It was really impressive, even for me that I know a little bit of the history. But I think you have a well laid out plan for the future. And yeah, keep fingers crossed and all the best. And please execute.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, it was Chris Lodder, the president and CEO of Barkerville Gold Mines. I even cannot summarize the whole thing, but I must say this is a sensational plan. It's quite seldom that you have something like this in an interview where the next 4 or 5 years are really planned. I mean, those partners with really Osisko Gold Royalties and Osisko Mining, that's fantastic to have. Companies with deep pockets and also big institutional shareholders, so financing shouldn't be never an issue. And they want to drill something like 400,000 or 500,000 meters in the next years, do the feasibility study, and go in production for $300-400 million of Capex. So that's really manageable, I would say, and this would be the next big thing in Canada, I would call it. Check it out. Thanks for watching us. Bye-bye from Zurich.